never done anything like this before in my life. So I hope I'm not the only person wearing a pink hat.
You look great. I wish you could see yourselves. It's like an ocean.
Very exciting, a lot of energy.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
Or this is what democracy looks like.
I just want to say I thought it was well put together. And however, when I initially saw it, it came off with a big bang as far as branding the pink pussy. I thought that was good because then it immediately went into how everyone else was wearing the same thing. I thought that was good. However, when it went to the 1 year later, it kind of, it seemed like it was a bit staged, and it kind of lost me when she went into the 1 year because she didn't seem as comfortable on the camera right there.
I really love the part about when there's like all these powerful women and they're speaking on stage, and but the narrative that we're following is this one very ordinary person who is just talking about that you don't have to be this big shot, you don't have to have a degree, or you don't have to have a certain social standing to do something. You could just be a very ordinary person and still make a contribution. So that was really beautiful. And I agree with what she said earlier, that the 1 year later part kind of threw me a little bit because it felt a bit unnecessary. I felt like when the title card comes 1 year later, and they could just put like a picture of, again, like these thousands of women gathered together, and that would have gotten the message across just as well instead of the video part of it.
Really good film overall. I think the only challenge that I didn't like about it was the angles of the filming, especially at the beginning where she's so close without any like lead in. And of course it looks like she was doing like a selfie, but it was like cut in really tight. So definitely some of the editing could have been improved in my opinion. A lot of the different segments of the different speakers that came up were just like boom, boom, boom without no real transition. And then like the year after, I totally agree also, it was a little bit out of nowhere, and it could have ended with a lot stronger ending, like the other lady said over here, of, just like showing the people and how many people walked, again, for the other event, and just like highlighting also like what the other gentleman said about, how did it actually make an impact, because it just seemed like a YouTube blogger that created a short.
I mean, what I took from it, from the year later, was that it showed that it continued. It wasn't like a one-off thing. Like, the momentum was still there a whole year later. They were still doing it. We still needed to do it. It was still growing. It was still continuing.
We're following one woman, and I didn't see her really change from staying in her closet to getting ready. And then a year later, she's standing in her closet again. And now she's trying to pick out her shoes, which kind of made me think, well, what did she do? Does she just get ready for the next march, but she's only thinks that her foot on the ground is enough? It would be interesting if she was, in her living room with other women talking about what they've gotten out, what have they done about it, what are they going to do about it, how they taught their children about it, how are they becoming more involved. She looks like she's just superficial and shallow about participating.
So instead of the political side of it, you wanted more of the reaction of the people that were at the march, that were joining, that were going, that were on
I want to see her change.
More normal level.
I wanted to see her change because I didn't see her really get involved that much.
Okay.
It was kind of like, well, you like marching, yay.
I think they overdid it with all the speeches. And the one part that I thought they were going to go into with more depth was when they showed all the women that ran for all these different offices in one. I thought it would have been great if they would have actually talked to them and gotten their feedback about, well, why did you run? Was it because of the election? Was it because of the Women's March? Were you urged by somebody? Did someone recruit you? Was, like Tammy Duckworth up there giving that speech, go home and run, or support those who are running. So how did the Women's March urge those people, encourage them to run? I think that would have been a greater focus. There was less than 30 seconds where they showed all these different people from all these different backgrounds, whether they be transgender or, you know, women in certain roles that broke through that glass ceiling. And I think it would have been better if they would have focused more on that as kind of cause and effect. The result of the Women's March was putting more women in office.
Like this is where the momentum led.
Yes,
I
exactly.
like that it showed so much momentum though.
Yeah.
Because we needed that push, like that.
Right.
Like I loved the build up to it, but a little bit more of the effect.
Yeah.
I also am one of the documentary filmmakers that worked on the March for Our Lives project that will be coming out later on in the year. And some of the things that we had problems with is when you're filming an event like that, she was probably running about 2 or 3 different cameras going on, along with her own personal camera that was doing her little vlogging experience of that. I will agree with you guys though, in terms of story-wise, there was a lack of story in terms of who she was as a person, because really the whole film should have been more focused on her journey throughout the whole march as well, so that we can get that sense. But when you're filming an event like that, it becomes very hard to work on the storytelling aspect of that, because you're filming speakers that you probably don't have access to immediately. So that was a thing that I could see of an issue being there. But to agree with you there, she did use a little bit more speakers than she should have, instead of giving her story herself as well.
You wanted more of a personal element
Yeah.
in it. You wanted to follow along with like
With her journey
a
of what she was
Okay.
doing exactly, instead of it just being her in the beginning and then her in the closing and then a bunch of like back-to-back-to-back speakers. A way that we could have probably fixed that is by documenting her thoughts on some of, like, pick 3 of the speakers, document your thoughts on what they said at the speech, and then intertwine that with visual as well and what they're doing at the actual event itself.
What I got from it was, because the title was This is Democracy, so I felt like she was pretty much just showing the democracy aspect of just having that freedom of speech as an American to just go out there and have your voice. Speak her, I don't think that was in any kind of way to neglect the other work that goes towards like civil rights. But I think it's just, you know, for a short film, she was pretty much, to me, what I got from it was she was celebrating just to have that that freedom, that right to do so.
This is why I love this. I never would have seen that, like, ever. And I love that you just pointed that out to me, because that makes a lot of sense. I like it. Thank you. We do have to move on to our second